My name is Trevor Francis, and I'm the publisher of Bergen in Color, which is a online platform designed to connect to the diversity of Bergen County and beyond. And this is Bergen in Color Live. Today we are talking to some of our friends in Teaneck because there's a lot going on in Teaneck right now. So this is going to be a enlightening conversation, an informative conversation. Hopefully it'll shine the light on some of the things that we need to address, within our community and in the political process overall. So I thank you guys for joining me, and as people get, into the chat, again, Trevor Francis, Bergen in Color. If you haven't joined our mailing list can be found at bergenincolor.com. I just sent out an email blast with a few announcements along with this call today. Also, we have a business directory that we are forming. So, as we want to support Black businesses, as we want to support Latino and minority-owned businesses, we have to know where they all are. So we're pulling together a diverse group of business owners, and we're going to have those listed on the website when it does in fact launch. So if you are a business owner or if you know of a local business owner, go ahead and have that person or yourself sign up for our free business directory, which is found also at bergenincolor.com. I wanted to get to know our audience better, so complete our 2020 survey, also found at bergenincolor.com. And that information is private. We just use it so that we can have an idea as to what information should be used to, what kind of content would be relevant to our audience, what types of advertisers we should try to attract, etc. So help us out as we continue to share information about this community. So on Sunday, July 5th, the past Sunday, I was a part of an amazing event called the Sisters in Solidarity Rally, and it was out there at Military Park in Newark, and it was such a beautiful day. It was amazing, and I just want to thank our friends at the Circles for Healing, Christina Jacquez and her team, and all of the wonderful people that came out. Natasha Pinnell of the Philip Pinnell Foundation joined me on stage, and she gave a stirring call to action. As you guys know or don't know, the Philip Pinnell story where he was a 16-year-old young man who was shot in the back by Teaneck PD about 30 years ago now. So his sister, Natasha Pinnell, shout out to Natasha, she has been carrying the torch for justice for her brother all of these years. And so she came to the stage, she came to the event all the way in Newark, and just educated the crowd as to what is going on and what we need to do to just make sure that justice prevails in these situations. Hashtag Breonna Taylor and hashtag George Floyd. So that day it was amazing. There was music. The LMNOP band was amazing. And we socially distanced. We had our masks on. We had, there was food provided by Frontline Foods New Jersey and the Hot Dog Lady of Newark. And they gave us free hot dogs and drinks. And it was a very hot day. It was extremely hot. But we were served by the community, by a Black-owned business, by a Black woman in business, because of our collaboration with Frontline Foods New Jersey. So shout out to all of our friends at Circles for Healing out there in Newark. Thank you to the North Jersey alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you to the Hudson and Bergen County women of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you to the local chapters of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and all of the groups and all of the women who came and joined us. Dawn Tennant, thank you for coming out there and supporting. Yakima Deloach, my friend, you guys are great. You guys came out and supported. I have some amazing pictures on the way from Danny Hadnot and Chad Houston, who are my regular photographers, and so I'll be releasing those after we get off of this call today. But thank you to everybody who supported one of the very few events that I partner with. But the Sisters in Solidarity rally was everything. And if you missed it, you missed it. Hopefully we'll do it again after all of this blows over with COVID. Which brings me to give me just a second. I'm going to hurry up and give you guys an update on testing really quickly. They are still doing testing in North Jersey, in Bergen County. And if you haven't done so already, we ask that, you go out there, you take your insurance card. If you don't have an insurance card, it doesn't matter. It's fine. You're, I have a little bit of a runny nose, excuse me. You're actually okay with not having insurance. They're just going to get your information and then give you the test so you can know your status. This week, they are in Bogota and Ridgefield Park. Today at St. Joseph's Church. Tomorrow, which is July 9th, they're in Wallington at Bolero. I know I'm butchering that. Bolero Wallington Park parking lot. And that's in Wallington, New Jersey. And then Friday, they are in Inglewood Cliffs at North Cliff Elementary School. So if you haven't gotten your test, or if you need to get tested again, it's free. Just go out there with your insurance card and your information, and they'll have you spit in a tube and give you your results about 2 to 3 days later. Okay, so the task at hand. So we are talking about, if you haven't been following what's going on in Teaneck, a lot of us, that don't live in Teaneck, it's kind of easy to overlook the local politics of a city that we don't live in. So what has been happening is, and I'll actually read directly from NorthJersey.com so that I don't mess it up. But basically, the headline is "Critics Erupt After Teaneck Council Elects All-White Leadership." And it goes on to say, simmering resentment over the results of Teaneck's May municipal election boiled over on Wednesday when a group of residents erupted during the Township Council's reorganization meeting. Critics decried the council's move to appoint 3 white men as mayor and deputy mayor while dismissing the lone black council member's attempt to become deputy mayor. A town with Teaneck's population, 27% of the residents are black and 20% are Latino, should have leadership that reflects that diversity, they said. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to add, give me just a second. I am Councilwoman Gervonn Romney Rice. She is the lone councilwoman in Teaneck that is African American. And while she comes on, we're going to, and that snippet that I read is from NorthJersey.com, written by Terrence T. McDonald. And we wanted to just kind of get some information as to what's going on, how can we help, what do we need to know, because, hey. Can you hear me?
How are you, Tevra? Yes, I can.
I'm good,
yes.
Councilwoman Rice, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And always
okay?
appreciate the work you're doing. I can hear you great. I'm on a headset today, so I can hear you great. And thanks for the work you do, and thanks for having me on today.
Thank you so much for coming on at such short notice. You know how I do, always last minute. But I was just giving everybody a kind of a background as to what's been going on in Teaneck. I read a snippet of the piece from NorthJersey.com. And so I just wanted to hear from your words, what is going on in Teaneck right now?
Okay. So we had our council election, May 12th. And the people spoke. The people chose in terms of what happened, in terms of how democracy works. 3 people were nominated to the council, which included Orthodox Jewish woman, a Hispanic gentleman, and re-election of Mark Schwartz, who currently is on the council. So with that appointment, with those elected officials being added to the council, that left me as the sole African American that sits on the council in Teaneck. And then moving forward, July 1st is our reorganization, at which time, just amongst the 7 members, we select mayor and deputy mayor. That's the form of government that Teaneck has under the Faulkner Act. It's not a town-wide election. And then there's a lot of people in the community that feel that that's something to work on to be changed, that's where change needs to start. But as a result of the 7 members, they nominated and was unanimous with Jim Dunleavy as our new mayor. And there was a nomination for Ellie Katz, Mark Schwartz, who had previously also been deputy mayor, to be reappointed. There was a second, and then I nominated myself, and it was never seconded, so therefore not voted upon. So, that all of that, of course, played out in public. And, I knew the deck was stacked against me, but I also needed to make sure that I've served on the council for 4 years. I was initially appointed at the death of my dear friend and our mayor, Lizette Parker. So I served out the balance of her term and then elected myself. So I had been serving for 4 years and have always served my community well. You look at the voting record, I spoke to some of my colleagues. I was like, often we're on the same side of what's always going to be in the best interest of this community. So here we are. Now, not only am I the sole African-American, they also, at that time, did a reappointment of two of our most important advisory boards, our planning board as well as our zoning board. And they moved to reappoint some folks and not renew Denise Belcher, who has served, and she can speak to how long she's actually served, but it's done a tremendous job in terms of asking questions that residents want to know. But by not being members, they can't. And she was an alternate member, but still asking very important questions as her background in real estate and invested in Teaneck over 30 years would want to know. And they chose to not reappoint her. And when I asked, I kept pressing to have to ask the question why. The response was given by Mark Schwartz, who wasn't the nominating person, but he said, well, because she ran against me. And I was just sharing with somebody who was like, well, wouldn't that be odd when somebody runs against you, gets appointed? I said, no, absolutely not. I said, I didn't support the people who won the election. But at the end of the day, election is over. You sit down and you serve. You serve with whoever is elected, and at that point, you all agree. You may not have agreed on how it was done, but you all agreed to serve the community, and that's what the position that we are currently. So, of course, it's not a conflict. That's what happens. That's why they say politicians sometimes make strange bedfellows. You roll up your sleeves and you get to work on behalf of the people, even though that's the same thing with, crossing the aisle.
So let me interject for a quick second. So if you guys aren't familiar with what was going on the outside of this meeting, there was about 100 protesters, people from the community with signs and chants. This was like a closed meeting. So a lot of these supporters that would have wanted to have their voices heard were essentially shut out because I guess they were a little too loud. I'm not sure how that works, but the voices of the people don't seem to have been heard, and they still don't seem to be heard now. So how can the people help going forward?
Well, our next council meeting is on July 14th, and because of social distancing, this will be a Zoom meeting. So, we won't have a physical meeting, but good and welfare still takes place. People will have an opportunity to call in and voice their concerns or their opinions. So now the composition of our planning board will be all male, an all-male planning board, and that is not fair in this day and age, 2020, to have only men represented on this planning board. So I think that speaks volumes to our community, and they can still, call in, write. They can write their elected officials. All of our contact information is public information that's on our township website. Email, call. So that that's a way that they can actually impact Denise. For me, it's basically a done deal. I don't see how that could possibly make any transition for me. However, for Denise, I still feel that there's an opportunity to advocate for her.
Okay. So for you saying that it's a done deal in your case, have you thought about what is next, or what, it is what it is as far as like, the deputy mayor role. Would you try again in the next few years? Like, what is next?
Yeah, so that's every 2 years. Every 2 years, there's always an election. So, for instance, I'm up for re-election in 2022. And, we'll see what the future holds in terms of re-election. And then at that point, they do then reappoint another mayor and deputy mayor. So that'll happen in 2022. But in the meantime, I think it's just, so important. Every election is critically important. We just had an election yesterday. So hopefully everybody on this call and watching did exercise their right to vote yesterday. And if you didn't, there's still opportunity to make sure you register, make sure everybody in your household is registered to vote. And we don't know what November will look like in terms of, will that still be a mail-in ballot? Will that be an actual, in-person poll voting? But it's an opportunity to make sure you always vote every election, focusing on that. And another very important piece is census. It's critically important for everyone to be counted, especially our marginalized communities that are often underrepresented. We need to make sure, whether you're a citizen or not, whether you own property, you're renting, living with someone in their home, basement apartment, or whatever, everybody has to be counted. That's so critical. That's another important piece. And then the other thing is building a network so that we have an opportunity to reach out to folks through email, through social media, so that when a challenge comes up in the community, there's important information that needs to be disseminated, we have a way of communicating with each other. Okay.
So I'm going to ask you another question about the actual day. So in the article in NorthJersey.com, Mayor Dunleavy told NorthJersey.com that council members looked at the work ahead and decided to vote for leaders who can get those things done, end quote. So what does that mean to you, being that, like you said, you've been doing this for 4 years officially, several years and beyond, unofficially in a role. Yeah. So what does that mean to you? Is that kind of, I'm going to let you answer.
So I didn't, I wasn't interviewed for the article. Nobody reached out to me in the production of the article, but afterwards reading that. And I was thinking, so what does that mean? That I'm not fit for the task? That I'm not ready to do this work? I found that very ironic. And prior to my service on the council, I also served 9 years on the Board of Education. So I have a long track record of building consensus, making sure that the community is heard, making sure that we move not as an individual, my own personal agenda, but what say the community and what is in their best interest. And making sure that everybody feels that they have a place at the table. For me, it's not about just me coming. Like Shirley tells them, if they don't make a place for you, come to the table and bring a folding chair. Well, I make sure I bring two, one for me and one for somebody else to sit at the table as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm still pondering what that means, especially with that statement being made in this international climate of the damage and reparation that's needed to be done in terms of race relations. How could I not be fit for the work? That's a little baffling.
Well, do you think, just in general terms, that there's going to be pushback because of all of this activism and because of all of our shining a light on the injustices of various, institutions? Do you think that this is kind of a little bit of Teaneck's pushback against all of that? We had that big march in Teaneck. There's been several marches since. And what are your thoughts on that?
You know what, Tevra, I don't even know if it's so much pushback as oblivion. It's just not that narrative, and it's just not part of your everyday world for some folks. For some of us, I was just sending a note to my son's teacher about, so happy that he has a summer course because now he can stay off the news and social media because he's become consumed with current events and what's happening. So I'm so glad he has, another distraction. Because I can't, even if I try to shut the news off or whatever, I have 3 Black sons, so I can't not be in the moment of what is happening. So for those that are able to shut it down, and it's just like oblivion, on to the next business deal, on to the next, planning issue, and keeping it moving. Where for us, it's much more challenging because we're still looking over our shoulder and making sure that in the midst of COVID, in the midst of racial injustice, having to look over our shoulder and still feeling like there's been gasoline poured on a fire right here in our community. So absolutely, we have to move forward because otherwise we still have to have those seats at the tables, still have to continue to move forward, move towards the healing, but also pushing the agenda of having these courageous conversations. These diverse communities, it's not just about building the physical structures. It's about building community and relationships, and that's something that we for long have not paid enough attention to. And that's one of the things that I'm moving towards, making sure that we have healthy conversations and healthy relationships as we coexist to a greater degree and talking about equity and inclusion.
So speaking of inclusion and conversations, I'm going to ask, okay, so recently there was a Zoom meeting scheduled, and it's probably still scheduled. I'm not sure if they've changed it, with the leadership of Teaneck, former mayor and present mayor, and Assemblyman Gordon Johnson, who backed out of that particular forum due to the reasons that we've been talking about right now, how the lack of inclusion, the lack of, being aware of the community that they serve, yada, yada. So what are some of your thoughts on that entire situation? I'm not sure if you were invited to be a part of that discussion. So what are some of your thoughts on that?
So, Trevor, I was not initially invited. Actually, just yesterday evening, I received an invitation. And I already have a previous engagement plan, so I wouldn't be able to participate. But, my thoughts were, clearly I'm not a hidden figure. And I'm open book. All my contact information is available. So if anybody wanted to reach out and say, hey, maybe I don't know the lay of the land here in the community, what are your thoughts? Or I can certainly direct you to someone who would. This could have been a wonderful opportunity because we are going to need town hall conversations, perhaps with some equity experts, people that are used to doing this inclusion, equity work, and courageous conversations work. But to be able to have someone from an expert point of view and peel back some of the layers to have these conversations. Does it need to be done? Absolutely. But the format that was organized and set up on the heels of people saying, I didn't even know about it. I think that you were one of the first people that brought it to my attention because I've just been, I still work. This is my lunch break. I'm still working during the day.
Thank you.
Yes. So, but the fact that this is not the time for anyone else to tell our story or to pick our narrative. So it now has to be germane to people in the community that are actually doing this work, who would say, yes, these are the players that we think would be able to help us move along the conversation. And so for the mayor and the deputy mayor, whose actions spoke very clearly, people were like, what do we want to hear from them? They've told us what they think. They've demonstrated. They don't have to tell us. We've seen them in action. So I think that was a bit of a faux pas in terms of the selection of who. Initially, I was thinking, well, maybe this would be a good opportunity to hold accountability and have the conversation. And I still think that is something to take place. But to really be constructive, what would it be? Just people expressing their frustration, and where would the next step to that conversation take us? And that's the type of, to me, the healing that needs to take place. And I applaud our Assemblyman Gordon Johnson for stepping down. I greatly appreciate his level of support because it's, what can you say to us when your actions have spoken? We need to have a different type of format to be able to foster these conversations. And also there's a trust factor. We have to be able to trust those who are formulating these conversations because what is your real agenda? Are you just trying to have a photo op and say, like, check the box, oh, we tried to have a Black Lives Matter conversation, but really not interested in doing this equity work that really needs to be done?
Okay, thank you for your time. I know we're in your lunch break. I just wanted to have you give your an abbreviated version, an abbreviated chat today, because as I say all the time, I'm not a politico. I'm not trying to step into any mess. But I do understand when women's voices are not heard, and not even not heard, when they're deliberately blocked, and that kind of like stirs something in me to
Yes. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Trevor. And the other thing of it is ensuring that our community remains united in this battle, and to not try to allow anyone to separate us, to separate us out or to pull this one person out or pull this other person out. Our community is going to remain united in this effort. And the other part of this in terms of equity with our men and women, I'm wearing my T-shirt today that says Black Women Lead, Unbought and Unbossed. And
I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And just making sure that our men in our community support the women that are doing this work, and that we're continuing to do this work together. We are not going to allow white privilege or even male privilege to be able to squelch the voice that is being heard loud and clear. and we're just adding our voice to the voices of the nation that are screaming, enough is enough. We're not doing anything other than what is taking place. I just want to give a shout out to Gordon, Assemblyman Gordon and Assemblyman Benjamin Wimberly, who are putting forth legislation, a resolution to have July 13th declared Black Lives Matter Day. And really would like to continue to follow up how we can support that effort and endeavor and continue to use those opportunities to coalesce and build our community. So I hope to be able to keep you posted on that as to what we can do as a community to support that effort. People have been calling me and asking about where can we put our murals. We want to paint the streets. This is not going to, this is nothing that's going to be blowing over like, oh, people will be tired. You know, yes, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of everything else, people are ready to take action in terms of.
But, you know, again, you know, we love a good mural and a good, you know, artistic moment, but we have to make sure that we vote. Like yesterday, I dedicated the page to voting information for the past 2 days so that people know exactly where to take their ballots if they hadn't put it in the mail, how to fill out their ballot for the various counties, not even just Bergen County. So we have to make sure that at every step of the way that we are engaged, that we are participating, and we can't wait for the information to be dropped into our lap. Sometimes we have to open up Google and do these research ourselves. You know,
exactly.
Bergen in Color, if I catch it, I can share it with you. But if I don't, you know, we have to take responsibility for our vote, and we have to make sure.
Absolutely. That voter education piece is so critical. Yes, and I can't tell you how many people called me. Like, I went to my polling site to vote, and it was closed. And it was like, yeah, you have to follow the information. There's limited sites because of COVID. This is a mail-in ballot, you know, but, you know, trying to make sure that the right to vote is continuously, you know, being informed, making sure that we push out information. But to your point, sometimes we have to do our own research. Yeah, but always here as a resource to the community, always here to serve. And I thank you for what you do for the community in terms of sharing information and a place where we can support Black businesses. And also, I appreciate that yesterday was our blackout. I did purchase Black-owned dinner. I went over to Burritos yesterday to support my brothers.
Yes, on the bros.
Yes, yes, indeed. So my son reminded me, he's like, well, Mom, you know we can't buy anything. And I was like, oh my God, I have a meeting at 8. I'm trying to do something quick for dinner. Let's go to Hackensack.
Yeah.
So
nice.
yeah, so we supported our Burritos.
And thank you for supporting me. I'm a Black-owned business. And Gervonn, Councilwoman Rice, I can't, you know, I have to leave Gervonn for offline. But Councilwoman Rice, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to just share your thoughts on what's going on. And whenever you're needing to talk, you know.
Yes, so, I appreciate that. And much love to my sister, Denise Belcher, who's coming up next.
Yes.
And I really hope that the community can continue to rally behind her and support her. Somebody forwarded me some information about a petition that they want to start. And, you know, the community is enough. So I know that she's going to have a lot of support from the community. And I send my yay and amen to that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to log off here with you right now, but have a great rest of your day. We'll talk later.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, everybody. That was Councilwoman Gervonn Romney Rice, Teaneck Councilwoman, and that was her account of what is going on currently in Teaneck, New Jersey. Again, like I said before, we are here to support the community. Bergen in Color was created specifically to connect to the diversity of Bergen County and beyond. And I couldn't just not say anything about what is going on right now in Teaneck, our neighbors in the Teaneck area. So right now we are talking to Denise Belcher, community advocate and entrepreneur. Hi, Denise. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you, Teva? How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So we just got off with Councilwoman Rice, and so we're now transitioning into the advocacy part, the planning board component of all of this. So can you tell us about what happened from your perspective?
Okay, certainly. First off, let me thank you for this opportunity, for the invite. I just want to start by saying that I've served on the planning board for 3 years now. And interestingly enough, this is not my first battle or challenge to be reappointed. Approximately a year ago, I encountered, upon trying to be reappointed, very similar situation that arose as similar to this year. So it's like deja vu. Last year, I was told by the deputy mayor that, I was not going to be reappointed, to go away quietly, to
He said go away quietly.
Yeah, his exact words, go away quietly. And I was stunned after I hung up the phone, after really kind of reaching out to him and asking him why I wasn't being reappointed, after having served for the 2 years and putting in the time and coming to meetings and asking questions and trying to represent the community, the citizens of our town. I was really perplexed by it, and it kind of caused me to say, well, you know what, I think I'm going to run for council. And I ran for council and came up short about 300 votes, unfortunately. So yes, thank you, Councilwoman Gervonn Rice. It's so very important, as you ladies were saying. The vote is so important because we can make the difference. But
and
that's
local,
okay.
let me put a pin. Local elections matter, guys. This is what happens when we don't participate in the local process. We have to pay attention to all elections, especially the local, because they directly affect the actual street where you live. But proceed.
Oh, certainly. That is so true. That is so true. And I kind of took that to heart serving on the planning board because, as you know, many people know, in Teaneck, there's a large amount of pretty much construction and development that's going on. And so when I was appointed, I kind of really took to task the whole point of really taking my job pretty seriously, in terms of reading about every application and looking at the content of what was being asked and so forth. And there was a lot of kind of challenging development going on, in particular in the African American community. So a lot of people were really happy to see that I was there, asking the types of questions and so forth. So, Teva, I think that the first challenge really had to do with me asking those questions.
Yeah.
Me, being inquisitive and wanting to know, why is this development happening? Where are the impact studies? Has anyone really looked at, how is this development going to impact our community, impact our schools, our transportation, parking, all those different things I began to really, question. And the powers that be didn't like it at all.
Do you think that with your questioning, they saw you as kind of a roadblock to development and progress? Is that why they were so adamant about leaving you out this go round?
I think this definitely. I think that the initially it was a matter of, okay, she's not going to make it easy. Mm-hmm. She's not rubber stamping everything that we want. She's not. In fact, this year it was this deputy mayor who said to me, and you can go back and listen to it. She doesn't think like me. She doesn't think like I think. Well, yeah, I'm not going to think like you. I'm an independent thinker. And I think that's
everybody thinks differently.
Exactly. In fact, I would think that that's one of the prerequisites for serving on an advisory board, that you're going to ask questions and you're going to be inquisitive, and you're not going to sit back and vote and rubber stamp applications. So that essentially brought us to this July last week's meeting, where my reappointment yet again was being challenged and basically being told that because I ran against this is the deputy mayor speaking, because I ran against him, I shouldn't be reappointed to the planning board.
So is that in any type of bylaw or policy? Like where did they do that at? Like where does that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from? Yeah, it's so interesting, Teva, because this past weekend, as we looked at a holiday, our nation holiday, I also watched Hamilton for the first time. In fact, I was one of the very few that didn't see it on Broadway, so I was real excited to really
it was great.
Stream it. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it was just so appropriate. Yeah. But you think about we all need to be in the room. Hamilton talked about being in the room. Councilwoman Rice talked about, sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
If we have no representation that looks like our community, not being in the room, I mean, we're going to, they're suggesting a planning board that have no women on it.
Yeah.
I was the only African-American woman that has sat there for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, last year and again this year, their attempt to get rid of me.
Yeah.
So the point of the matter is that they don't want representation. Many of them marched, and the march that we had recently in town, Black Lives Matter, and they chanted and they said, say his name, say her name, and so forth. But you know what? They don't realize the institutional.
They could have stayed home if they were going to act. Like, if we knew, we would have told them to go sit down somewhere.
Right.
Because the real work happens when you're enacting policy, when you're enacting boards and committees and all of that stuff, not holding a sign and putting a picture on Instagram. Like, that's not to say the least of these, but that is a performative part of the actual work that needs to take place.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so vitally important that we being the diverse town that we are, and we claim to be, know that by having representation on our advisory boards that are reflective of our township, that are reflective of all of our gender, not just having, no women, one woman here and are there. It's not this whole, situation of it being an old boys network is not really playing well anymore. And I think people are beginning to challenge those that are in position, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So what is next for you, Denise? Because I know you're in real estate. You do a lot of civic work with various organizations here. Can you tell us more about like your life and
Certainly.
what you're planning, for your own self?
Certainly. So I will always stay involved. I will always stay connected to my community, representing my community in any capacity that I can. And particularly my swim lane is real estate and economic empowerment. So that's very, very important to me. I know that there are voices that are out there that have reached out to me about, doing petitions and petitioning and shining a light on it. And I think that's what we do well. And I want to get Councilwoman Rice t-shirt. I want to order one of those because that's what we do well as Black women. We don't sit back idly.
No, we don't.
And we don't go away quietly.
No, we don't.
I'm so glad that Deputy Mayor Ellie Katz had said that to me, because I said to myself, no, I'm not going away quietly. That's not what we're made out of. That's not our stock. That's not who we represent. We have young people that are watching us, When you think about those that put their lives on the line, Black Lives Matter, and there's an awakening that has happened in this nation, and it has happened in North Jersey. And it has happened in Teaneck. And I think people are not going to sit by and let this one slide and let this one say, well, you know what? Yes, we have other minorities that and so forth. No, let's not get it twisted. Let's be for real. Let's call it what it is. Let's shine a light on it and let people realize this is who is leading. This is the leadership.
Yeah. And when they say, we have other minorities, which, I read earlier, 27% African-American in Teaneck, 20% Latino, yet is there one Latino in the entire?
I just heard that he was. Yeah, I think they elected someone that is of that descent.
Yeah, so we need to be, again, Bergen in colors stands for, diversity of all colors. So, to our Latino community, to our Asian community, we need you to also be involved in the process. We can't expect, we can't reflect the true diversity of our area, of our locality, when, only one or two groups are actually in the process. So, we need, as much as, I'm a Black woman, I ride for the Blacks all the time, but we have to also say, hey, we all need to be engaged. It can't just be one or two groups here and there. Everybody needs to be a part of this, not just us trying to, bang on the door all the time by ourselves. We need everybody to come and help us bang on the door as well.
And that's the beauty of it all, is that, you know, Black Lives Matter
Hmm.
is so
It's
inclusive.
truly a
You know, it's
rainbow.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's truly a rainbow. Exactly. And it is letting other people of color know that, you know what, you're invited. We need your voice.
Hmm.
You know, we need your voice. We need your vote. We need you to take the census. We need all those things that are going to help represent our communities.
Yeah. Okay. So planning board 2020, is there any way to, I heard petition, I heard write to your council person, any ways to kind of get
Well, you
our,
know what? All those things are great. I applaud anyone that does that, because that
uh-huh,
is protest.
uh-huh,
You know, constitutional, you know, rights that we hold. So
hmm,
by all means, if people want to petition, people want to write their council people, for by all means do that. I think it's important. I think it's important for people to come out to these meetings.
hmm,
That, you know, in this case, you know, attend, you know, log on to the Zoom meetings.
yeah,
Ask questions, come to Good and Welfare, even though they may cut you off and act rude toward your questioning. You know, by all means, be persistent.
yeah,
Come out, represent.
hmm,
You know, even if it means you can't make everyone, maybe put together a coalition of your block association, so people take turns even coming to the council meeting and the advisory boards.
hmm,
When I sat on and sitting on the planning board, I oftentimes sat up and would listen intently when it came to you know, our residents coming in and voicing their concerns, because it's important to hear from them. It's
hmm.
important to hear from them, for sure.
And also, you know, with Teaneck, you know, all of this development and all these changes, you know, when we think of things like committees and stuff, which are normally reserved for people who own homes in that area, we have to also remind people that if you rent, if you live with a family member, if you live in that jurisdiction, you are more than welcome and more than entitled to be part of the process as well. So I think a lot of people kind of, especially like college students and people who are not, you know, um, homeowners in an area, they don't really get as engaged as they should. But if you vote, if your license says that you live at a certain in a certain place, you're entitled to be a part of the process there as well. So we
Absolutely.
want everybody. That's going to the part of, we want everybody to be engaged. We want everybody to do the census. We want everybody to stake their claim as far as, I live here. I'm a part of this process here.
Absolutely, absolutely, for sure. Because there are opportunities out there, even for people that are renters. You know,
Yeah.
people that, you know, your voice matters as well. So
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah. So, last question. So, is there anything that you want your Teaneck neighbors to know about what's next for you or what's next for the community through your eyes? What do you want them to know?
Well, yeah, I want them to know that, you know what, housing is a very big part of our community, in terms of what my next steps are. I continue to be a real estate broker, continue to really encourage home ownership, especially,
Mhm.
you know, first time home owners. I encourage that in particular within our community, because we have a strong history of having, you know, African American ownership and Hispanic ownership within our communities. And I think we should definitely continue that. I think that, you know, coming out of the tough times that we've come out of, there's going to be a greater need. There's going to be a greater need within our communities in terms of support and understanding of programs and resources that are available that can help people to get back on their feet
Yeah.
economically. I am a real estate broker, but I'm a business owner as well. So
Mhm.
looking at things that will continue to help our business community. I mean, yesterday, you know, was the blackout movement, and I think it's important to shine a light and to continue to shine a light on African American businesses and
Mhm.
how we can support it. It's not a happy day when we see African American businesses that are having to leave Teaneck
Yeah.
because they're being
Yeah.
forced out
And
by
there's a few.
landlords.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not a happy day. That doesn't show true representation, because you have people that are having to leave because their landlords have raised their rents substantially and they can't afford to stay.
Or not making the adequate repairs to make sure that their businesses are safe and that their businesses are able to function now they're supposed to, up to code. Yeah, I
Exactly.
know some of that tea too, girl.
Yes, yeah. So you know what I'm talking about, girl. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
So
it
those
is
things,
huh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, those things are very important. They're
Hmm.
very important that we shine a light on that.
Yeah. Well, Denise, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time,
Thank
and
you.
you know, we're with you. And when you have good news, when you have any news, just feel free to share it with Bergen and Color. We'll get the word out for you. Thank you so much for all that you do in the community.
Thank you, and you as well. Have a
I
great
like the bob too. I like the new haircut.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care.
All righty.
Okay,
Bye
okay,
bye.
everybody. So that was Denise Belcher. And excuse, I have an allergy situation going on. But yeah, that was Denise Belcher, community advocate, entrepreneur, real estate broker, and Teaneck resident who is a part of this ongoing unfolding situation in Teaneck with the township council and planning committee. So I just wanted you guys to have some background on some of the things that are going on. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, I'm not a politico. I'm not somebody that's going to, you know, do any investigative reports on, you know, I'm not that girl. This is Bergen and Color was created to connect to diversity, events, philanthropy, etc. But I am a Black woman, and when I see Black women who are being not handled the way that they should have been, I'm going to have to use my platform to say something, even if it's just to give them a space to say their side of the story. So that is what this is all about. I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't joined our mailing list, go ahead and go to bergenandcolor.com, where you will see our mailing list sign up, our business directory sign up, which is free, and our 2020 survey. Also, yesterday, I hope you guys voted. If you could give me a quick thumbs up to say that you voted, that would be great. We did provide all of the information that you needed to be able to vote. But the one thing that's left for you guys to do is to do your census. So if you haven't done that census already, we ask that you do that, because again, a lot of these issues is we can, you know, directly correlate that to representation based on numbers from 10 years ago. We need to make sure that our numbers are adequately representative. I see some thumbs up. Yes, yes, voters. Yes, I love it. I love it, voters. Yes, voters. So yeah, so we love to vote, right? Because we need to make sure that, you know, I keep saying our vote is our voice. And in situations where, you know, you see Denise, who did run for council, but she lost by 300 votes. You know, we could pull in 300 votes, 300 people for a cigar party, you know, anywhere else. So we need to be able to pull those same 300 people out to vote for somebody that actually is representing their interests. So with that said, I'm not going to keep you guys much longer because I really need to blow my nose. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting. My name is Trevor Francis, and this is Bergen in Color, where we connect you to the diversity of Bergen County and beyond. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.